The main rule of design, the rule that governs all other rules, is the rule of proximity. I don't know why not everyone talks about it, but every professional web and UI designer knows that a deep understanding of just this one rule is the key to making at least a middle-of-the-road, good-looking design. I mean, you can take any bad example, check this rule, fix it, and in most cases, the design will start to look okay, even if it was awful before. The rule sounds easy and obvious, but without understanding the meaning of this rule, it will be useless. So let's dive in, and by the end of the video, you'll have a full understanding of the key rule of web design. First, the basics. Objects that are close to each other are perceived as connected. What does that mean? What is an object? Anything you want to be solid in your design is an object. For example, on this slide, we have an article title, an article image, and article text. The image and text are close to each other, and they're perceived as connected, and the title is a little bit disconnected from them. But why does it feel disconnected? The answer is because the title is perceived as connected to the page header. That means that if we didn't have a title, it wouldn't be a big problem, but with it, the structure is falling apart. Let's go to the worst-case scenario. Add a second news block. You can see that there's no structure. You need to move your brain to understand what's what. It starts to be a mess without any meaning. Even with a clear, minimalistic style and a cool font pair, it doesn't help. Because design is structure, and if you have no structure, it's just font, colors, and images, not design. This happens because we've already connected the text and image of the first article, and now for some reason, the title of the second article is stuck with it too. So we have a strange structure with a two-line header of the page after the image, and text with a strange title at the end. The fix is very easy. Let's connect the titles with the articles by decreasing the negative space between them. Now we've disconnected the titles from the wrong things and connected them to the right things, and everything starts looking much better. And you may have heard that we need to use more negative space, also known as white space. More negative space is better for design. Nope, just adding it, you can easily break the rule of proximity and ruin your design. The truth is, we don't need negative space, we need contrast. A big header and small text, a white background and black font. And if you want to use modern big fonts and want to focus attention on them, you need even more negative space around them for contrast. So use it not just to add space, but to create a meaningful layout. So we already have an understanding that negative space, line spacing, and space contrast are all about the proximity rule. But when it comes to working with text, the main part of the proximity rule is a special case called the rule of inner and outer. A typographic object of any level consists of other objects, letters made up of strokes, words made up of letters, lines made up of words, and paragraphs made up of lines. And for an object to have an independent meaning, that is, for a letter, word, line, and paragraph to be separated from their neighboring one, the internal distances must be less than the external one. And it's the same rule, but when we go into the real world, it starts to become complicated by adding detail. The first hard to understand thing is that you must control what the object is by yourself. I mean, if you're applying this rule to a card with news, first you need to understand, am I working just with text? Does that mean I need to connect leading, line height, and font size? Or is all the text a solid object, and do I need to apply the rule to understand the spaces between the title, image, and text? So usually, you need to work on any level separately. You need practice to understand how it works. Yes, I understand. Without an example, it must be hard. It's just a good way to learn. Get the theory first, let it fuel your brain, and then go to example. So, we're here. Strokes of letters are independent objects. Using the example of one inscription, let's try to apply the simple rule. The internal space should be equal to or less than the external. The spaces inside the letters are marked in red. The spaces outside, that is, between the letters, are marked in green. Any distance between letters turned out to be less than any of the distances inside the letters. The letters are cramped. They lack personal space. The inscription seems to have merged. To separate, take the largest internal distance, it is in the letter O, and use it as the minimum inter-letter distance. Now the distance between all letters is normal. We balance the internal and external in this word. Let's add the word compass. Again, something is wrong. The words are merged. The space between words is slightly larger than the inter-letter distance. This is not enough to visually separate the word. It is important to remember that the rule of internal and external works at all levels. What is true at the letter level is also true at the word, line, and paragraph level. The balance between internal and external is key to creating clear and legible typography. The red is inner, the green is outer. If we look at each word separately, then within the letters is inner, between the letters is outer. Let's not rush to just spread out the words. We have different tools. At least instead of increasing the outer, we can try to reduce the inner. That is, reduce the distances between the letters. Yes, we only recently spread out these letters, but spread them with a reserve. Now we have used this reserve. There is another option. Make this inscription in 2 lines. Again, something is wrong. The line spacing is less than the intra-letter spaces. Because of this, reading the top line is hindered by the bottom. The eyes seem to stumble on the letters jumping between the lines. It turns out an unpleasant effect of a chessboard. Let's try to balance the inscription by spreading out the line, that is, increasing the interline. Note that in the option where we simply increase the space or reduce the interletter distance, we did not take into account the size of the inscription as a whole. And now we have created a harmonious composition of words. Take a step back. In front of us is the inscription again with too small a line spacing. If we don't add interline, what else can we do to balance the inscription? Choose a narrow font in which the interletter distances will be smaller, which means that the requirements for interletter spacing will decrease. Without changing the font size and line spacing, we reduced the interletter spacing and got a compact, balanced inscription. We did this for the sake of an experiment, to show one of the ways of working with margins. It is a conscious choice of font according to specific parameters. We will return to the initial font and try to add more details to bring the work closer to reality. Add a tagline. What is now on the most general level is internal and what is external. Compass College, this is the headline. A single headline, one phrase. This means that the space between the lines of this phrase is internal. The tagline is a separate entity. The distance to it is external. And again, the internal was greater than the external. The simplest solution is to push the tagline away so that the distance between the words is greater than the internal distance between the letters. Excellent. The inscription is balanced again. Let's continue to approach reality. Let's imagine that we have a table of a certain size where we need to fit the inscription. The distance from the inscription to the edges of the table is external. The distance between the heading and the tagline is internal. The simple way is to reduce the scale of the inscription. It will work, but we lost in scale due to the reduction of font size. Let's look for another way. There is one. Let's try to go through all levels, trying to make the inscription more compact. Remember a long time ago when Compass College was in one, we reduced the interletter spacing so that the words would not merge. Let's try it now. It worked. The distance was reduced, but the inscription remained in order. We look at the inscription Compass College as a whole. Due to the reduction of interletter spacing, we now have the opportunity to reduce interline spacing. It worked. Now let's move the tagline closer to the heading. That's it. Without reducing the schedule, we managed to fit the inscription into the table without losing readability and visual appeal. It's not necessary to work with any specific fonts, or even with any capitalized headline. Usually, the minimal object to work with is a word, not a separate character inside a word. Theory is one side of it, but how do you practice it? It depends on your level. For beginners, it's always good advice to steal like an artist. To learn how to do this for your daily design practice, check out my video Daily Design Practice for an explanation of a better way to boost your design skills with just a couple of hours of practice per day. Click on it or check the link in the description. We'll be in touch.